meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval amendment of meeting agenda items.
It is as stands. I move to approve the meeting agenda for March 13th as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda for March 13th, 2019 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of February 27th, 2019.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from February 27th, 2019 as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Correspondence.
I have none.
Public comment. Okay. No public comment. Reports.
Jackie Rumps, Mr. Strapp.
Ms. Robinson here to talk to you guys about our wellness grant, specifically what we're doing currently right now, more importantly, and then also she's going to throw a little bit in about our new one, right?
If you want me to.
Well, you don't have to.
I can throw lots of stuff at you if you
Okay.
would like me to. I'm just here to talk about the employee wellness. And we are no longer in that grant year. That was over in 2018. And so we just now are, the district's sustaining that for us. And the two main things that we have are our fitness center upstairs in the south wing of the DMS, where we have treadmills and bikes and a little spot to do yoga, some balance balls, things like that. And I was looking at numbers today, and we have approximately 23% of our staff that uses that, our district staff. And so, which is a pretty good number, I think, especially, I mean, they're probably, a lot of people are using it because of the snow and things like that, so it's very nice to have this winter. ESD folks can also use that, so it's just a nice place for people to go, a good perk for them. And then also, we do water, bottled water that we get from Mounts. We use both the water services, yeah. And that, a lot of folks use that. I can't tell you a number on that, but I can tell you that almost every single time I go to get water, I have to change it. So 5 gallons on top of it. So we go through a lot of it at the high school. I know in our middle school and high school, staff really appreciates that. And so, I mean, and I hear a lot from the elementary folks that they really like having that resource. And then we also out at Union have a treadmill and a bike as well. So the folks that live out there can go there instead of driving all the way to town. Or
Where's that one at?
in the gym somewhere?
It's in the gym. There's a little room just off the gym there. It's kind of closed off.
Must be one of the locker rooms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's stuff in there.
I have not actually seen that one. I know Nicole uses it all the time, so tells me about it. But so we just really want to say we're appreciative of those resources, and thank you for that. So, and that's about really, I mean, that's all we do with that, and just maintaining our fitness equipment, and maybe if we have to replace some stuff throughout the years. But it's been 5-6 years now, and we haven't really had any issues with any of our equipment because our people take care of it, and
So this room is not the same as what the student body uses?
Correct.
Nope.
They're separate?
Yep. And we don't allow students to use it because we want to keep it we want the longevity piece of that. And if you have kids in there, you never know what they're doing. So, unfortunately. So, and I guess I can tell you about the new grant that we have received. It's a student wellness grant, and it has 3 parts to it, and it's a nutrition piece, a managing chronic conditions piece, and a PE minutes piece. And so we've received grant funds for that, and it's going to be a 5-year grant to help educate on and control chronic conditions like diabetes and asthma and stuff like that. And then the nutrition piece is, like, we can use money to, buy things for our cafeteria, or revamp our cafeterias, or do education pieces. And then the PE minutes is the elementary school and the middle school have required number of minutes that they have to have daily and weekly. And so some ideas and some funds to use to get things in classrooms, so kids are up and moving in classrooms and getting their PE minutes at the elementary school in the classrooms, not just their 30 minutes when they go to PE. So it's actually gonna be a really great grant, I think, for the overall wellness of our kids. So that's coming. We'll hear more about that. We have a meeting in a couple weeks, right, Will?
We did.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so,
Who's rating these grants?
Mr. Cahill?
I just, ODE called and wrote a letter of support, and that's all they did, a little letter of support, and got a grant.
And that really, I think, was also a part of us having the wellness grant and doing the employee wellness grant and doing a really good job with that. And so they recommended that, so OEA Choice Trust recommended to ODE that they reach out to us. So,
Is there as things, treadmills wear out and things like that with the teachers' room, is there grants we're chasing for those? Small grants to replace as things?
I've seen mini grants that they sometimes do, the OEA Choice Trust, and they've talked to us a little bit about them, but we haven't pursued them yet.
Okay.
But as a part of that sustainability piece, there's a little bit of money to do repairs and replacements and stuff, right, Janet? Yeah. So, and I think that is about $8,000 a year to sustain that.
Actually, we transferred 10
Okay.
this last year, have scheduled for
Okay.
10 this year,
Okay.
so. However, I don't think that we specifically budgeted for any repairs and new equipment this year, just
Right,
because.
we didn't.
Yeah, because we knew we were in good shape. That doesn't mean next year that we
Yeah,
Right.
or
have it on the
tutors,
docket, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
just looking into the future, we just kind of put it on a rotation to get a new treadmill or a new elliptical machine, or, if we
It's
have to.
important to stay on top of those, otherwise they all
Yeah.
break at once.
They do, and Sam's really good about like troubleshooting them and working on them if we need him to, so,
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, 8.2.
All right, a few things are going on. We did an agreement, last board meeting about the, pursuing long-range facility assessment. I have not heard back, from ODE on that grant, as of yet. Of course, it's not the 15th, but, we did get, broken down into sections, for that, for the mass approval that you guys took care of last time. So we did break it down. They were more than happy to do the breakdown, so in case something happens midstream, we can take it a piece at a time. So we signed the long-range facility plan, consultation with cooperative strategies this week. They're setting up calls, initiating calls for us to start making a plan of attack. They were working on that this afternoon. I don't have a final date. Stay tuned for that. So, kind of as we talked about in the last board meeting, to kind of make sure that we go step by step and don't get too far in if we feel like it's not gonna work for us. So we did do that. They're more than happy to work with us on that, so they're really great to work with. Just a side note. We were in recipients of a seismic grant over a year ago, and if you guys really recall, we were very hesitant to start in on that because it would take away a gym for us, the DMS gym, essentially. Upon thinking this through, given the fact that we're doing this long-range facility assessment, I think we're better off to return, which we don't have any of those funds, but to return that grant back and go on the bigger scale and go with the bond long-range facility situation. One, we have to have done by September 30th of 19. We are not going to meet that deadline at all. So Mr. Cahill and I discussed it. and thought that it would be best at this point to do all or nothing within our long-range facility at this point. Plus, we can't really afford to lose a gym at this point either. So, that's where we are there with that. The KCC main floor, or that main floor on the KCC, which houses our step-up and the ILC, as you guys know, we complained of the bathrooms. We have about roughly $128,000 left over in those Ford Family Fund that was sent to us. So there are a couple of rooms in there right next to Step Up that you can kind of see through the floor, so we probably should do something with that. So I need to meet with, kind of coordinate with KCC as far as what their expectation is in one of those rooms, along with coordinating with the Step Up program to make sure we facilitate that. But we do need to do something with that room and kind of finish that main floor off. That would be a really good step for us to get that floor finished up. So there's dollars there ready to go out. We just gotta RFP it, decide what we want done next, and go forward. So there's that. The next thing that's on agenda, and probably on the forefront of everybody's mind, is the shop. I've run into a lot of brick walls this last couple of weeks. Norco, who is our, we ordered the booths through, they were also to provide the plumbing for the gases, so the oxyacetylene, argon, and all of those gases. They have it in their proposal to us, which we accepted, to provide the plumbing piece of that. About a month ago, asked them to, okay, start coming in, what do we need to do, where are we at, get in here, let's go, we've got them in. They discovered at Norco that they really don't have anybody licensed on staff like they thought they did as they proposed it. So the struggle now is a licensed plumber in gases. So they were going to bring somebody out of Boise and have them here Monday. The problem lies in they don't have an Oregon permit, one, and two, they need to have a permit, which this fellow at Norco failed to get us a permit. So my last words to him this afternoon was to potentially call Ed Stops and see if they would come in and do that. I've also expressed to him that this is not on us, that it's on him. I don't want any extra bills. We will pay what we owe as far as the grant or the agreement on the quote was, but we will not pay any more because this is on them, big time. Furthermore, the guy from Utah will be here at some point tomorrow. He's gonna call me when he gets to about Winnemucca. He'll leave Salt Lake in the morning about 3, he said, so he wasn't quite sure what time that put him here. He is going to address the smoke situation. It's very heavily smoky in there, and they're not working properly, along with the noise factor. And
Ventilation problem.
yeah, and so he's our ventilation guy. Part of that quote is the ventilation guy. So he is very happy to come. The delay for him was he had a wife in the hospital, and so it delayed him for a little bit, but he will be here tomorrow. I confirmed with him today. All the other pieces are waiting on the gas plumbing piece. So I have another conversation with Marty with Norco in the morning to finish up and make sure Ed Stop can maybe do that for us. And it may be such a thing that we have to contract that straight up with Ed Stop maybe. I don't know that. It was an I threw Ed Stop out there. That's the only one I can think of that should have a plumbing
Yes, license
permit.
experience.
Yeah. Just the license, period. So that is my struggle and has been my struggle. Norco has not been very easy to deal with. I will give you guys that one. But we will get that straightened out. The curtains got here a week ago. My guys went in to try to put those up for the one set of welders. And we either don't have the right parts or they sent us the wrong curtains again. but the guy that is coming tomorrow, said he can get us through that, cause he knows where they came from and what they should look like. So that should be rectified tomorrow also. We did order earmuffs, which I found out this afternoon. We've been waiting on them since about the 6th of March. They were supposed to be delivered here. And I just got an email back this afternoon that said, oh, our bad, we'll ship them today. Super. So, so that's been the frustration. Just to keep everybody in.
Have we paid Norco anything yet?
We've paid partial. We have only paid for the booths that have arrived. I am holding money.
And we are clearly in the right to do that. Because again, they've been on a job they didn't have somebody licensed for full proper permit, so that is on them.
So yes, I withheld money on purpose, just so that they will finish their job that they came to do or are supposed to be doing. So yes, I am holding money over their head.
Do you feel like Norco's gonna bail on us?
No, I don't. I don't. I believe that, what I think is I've got a guy that is not nearly as versed as he sold himself for the company, unfortunately. And so he's learning a hard lesson. And unfortunately, I'm having to have to do part of his job at this point. So, I do know that also in talking with Jennifer, Jennifer Stevens at the, planning department, that it will have to go to file review also, which is out of Eugene. So,
Which is on,
what's that?
which is on whose dime?
It's gonna be on his dime.
It's part of the
And
permit.
it's not,
It's part of the
and it's
permit
not a quick
process.
process.
And it's not a
Takes
quick
about
process.
3 weeks.
Yeah. So unfortunately, he knew that. In fact, he tried to pawn it off on Mr. Philbert, who's done our construction piece and who has completed through as far as he can go. He's been great, Sean has. And as far as that goes, Norco has tried to pawn it on Sean, and both Sean and I both said, we can't, neither the school district and or Sean cannot pull that permit. It has to be the person that holds that license, period.
Copy.
So at this point, we really can't even have anybody apply for it because we don't even know who has the license.
I think there are people out there. I think I'm having to have to do a lot of hand holding. And if Ed Staub does not work out, that they maybe they're limited in what they're probably licensed to do so, but they're probably limited.
This is a big project.
Right. So if they're limited, then I'm probably gonna end up having to hustle to get somebody in here that's licensed or, in Oregon.
Well, and the thing is, we can't even ask for the permit that's gonna take 3 weeks until we get this person with the license.
Because they have to sign
Sign it,
it.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Mhm. Yes, and Norco knew that. The bad part is Norco, for some reason, had it in their mind they had somebody on staff. And they don't have anybody on staff to do that, which is weird to me because that's their job. That's what they do.
It's a business.
So I'm kind of at my last straw with Mr. Marty, and we'll see what happens tomorrow, but we may start going up the chain on him tomorrow. Other than that, it's going great. Not really. But all the parts and pieces are there. Those are the problems that we're having right at the moment. So, not ignoring it, it's a daily occurrence in my life.
So the fellow that's coming from Utah tomorrow, he's gonna address the
The smoke,
lack of ventilation and the noise.
right, so there's a governor they can put on it, if you will. How well that's gonna suppress that noise, there's probably gonna be some pretty significant amount of noise yet still, but maybe they can reduce it a little bit. Plus the earmuffs, if I ever get them, will help. Secondly, he will address the smoke issues. He's thinking something's just not adjusted right or whatever, and they weren't running, obviously, when they were set up, when he was here the first time. And so this has just occurred, you know, as they started using.
Right.
using
Well,
it.
because even like with the earmuffs, and that's great in protecting their actual ears, but that's a little bit hazardous in their inability to hear what's actually going on
Next
when
door.
Joe next door is gonna blow them up.
Right, right. So he'll be here tomorrow.
Teacher talking to him.
Yeah,
So, you know, the teacher's sitting there, you know, rod higher, angle of the rod, slow down, bigger circles. They can't hear that.
right.
And I walked in today and it had been 10, 15 minutes since class was over, and it was just a class of 6 or 7 kids, and there was a haze that made me feel sick.
Speaking of one of them.
Made me feel sick. I don't know why they're not working. We have 4 brand new
And they're huge.
state-of-the-art air cleaners. We used to just have 2. We have air cleaners over every art booth running, and they're still.
So this guy tomorrow is gonna,
Right, this is what he does. This is what he does. And he would have been here sooner, but like I said, his wife was in the hospital, so he couldn't get here. But he's more than happy to get here, tomorrow, so.
Only question I have is the shop on the geothermal?
No,
So, why not?
they have the plumbing there. They ran out of money to plumb all the way through on the geothermal. The plumbing is there.
Who's
what are
they?
we- Yeah, who's they?
Well, that was a Daryl Anderson deal, if you recall. He was in charge of that piece of it. And I don't know who else, all the partners that was kind of pre-me, but, I know Daryl was a big part of that geothermal. And it's there, just not,
So is that a cost savings? I mean, obviously there's a capital cost if we wanna, you know, make it
right.
finished and complete, but then after that, there should be some savings if we geothermal.
Correct, and that would just only deal with your heating situation.
Right. But, I mean, doors open and close all winter, it seems like it's probably a lot of heating.
It,
That's definitely.
there
a lot.
is.
I mean, a lot of buildings.
right, more
there's-
power though,
Yeah, there's a lot, I mean, so it seems like,
running your machines.
yeah, it seems like we should.
And
get
right
on it
now,
and
we're in
see what
better
it costs
shape.
to finish it.
We're in better shape, with the wiring that we put in.
More efficient.
Yeah, because before, you know, you could only run maybe 1 or 2 welders before you blew it, you know. Now it's up and running, and what do you got, 9 on one side of the wall and another 9 on the other side of the wall. And so we're
You can run
more,
them all.
People know when your pole they put up too.
well, the Pola feeds into that new box that.
So are we saying we don't wanna finish the geothermal out?
I'm not saying that, I just think that,
That's a whole different problem.
that's a
It is,
whole nother
but
issue.
It seems like I mean, if it's already plumbed, it just seems like, you know, we need a unit or we need something to finish it out, and then after that, the savings should start coming.
And I think, are you suggesting we use this grant to do that, Darwin, or?
No, I don't know, I don't know what the
We don't
cost is.
have any
but
money
if we know
left
what
to
the
do
cost
that.
was-
Basically,
For that grant.
Yeah,
basically,
we
the
should
grant
look
is,
at
the grant is targeted to what it was targeted for. is
Right, I
the
know
building of
that
this
on
home.
this project, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying if we need to finish this, it seems like a simple thing to finish. And
Do you know what the
Start
cost
saving.
is to plumb it, Jen?
I don't, because I don't know I don't know exactly what's there. I'd have to call Daryl and find out how far in, where it is, that sort of thing.
Doesn't mean we have to do it. I know you have a long, but maybe just a number in the next, hot next month.
Well, I
You're
can-
really funny.
I can ask him. I'm more than happy to
You know
ask
we're
him
getting
about
into
it.
budget season, are you funny today?
I do know this, that the geothermal line
June.
runs right down that
Oh,
driveway
maybe
by the
July.
egg shop.
Yeah, I remember seeing
Fair.
it around. Yeah. So if it's ready to go, I mean, I can ask him, I'll be more than happy to ask him just to get, if he can give us even a quick quote for no cost and just tell us what the final.
I mean, I guess if we were gonna,
I don't think Daryl does anything with no cost.
yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that for you. But anyway, is there any other questions, any concerns?
Facilities, right?
Yeah, I think we're still there. Not sure. Any other questions, about any of those projects we have going, not going.
Any spring or summer activity on the ag farm facility grant?
So, thank you. So what needs to happen there is the pivot is fully in. Mr. Nelson, is in to the point. We have it, Joe McIntosh has wired it. The only thing left to do, as far as I can tell, that's a major deal, is running, a span from your pump to your pivot, tower. So that span, comes across the creek there. And so that is the only other thing left to do. Mr. Nelson did give me a quote about that, and he gave it to me. And what he said to me was, it's probably the biggest one. Probably don't need the biggest one, but better to be high than low with it. So I would suspect around 10 to run that span across by the time you installed it and those kinds of things, and get it there and get that pipe.
Is that part of the original set of money that we still have, or are we out of money and is this gonna be an additional expense?
So that was a Measure 98 situation. And so we are backfilling Measure 98 a little bit with the CTE grant, given the fact that we were a little bit over. However, I did find a little pot of money at the side because Adele and Plush were awarded dollars for Measure 98. And it relates to high school kids. So we have their high school kids. So the little pot of money that they get actually comes to us.
Help fund this.
That could maybe help fund us out there. I'm kind of in a limbo situation because we also need to finish the shop. And my fear is I'm gonna be a little bit over there, but at the same time need to finish that. So we're trying to juggle those funds. However, it is on the docket to receive legislation anyway, I should say, to receive the Measure 98 funds, which will be fine, which will be super. And if that's the case, then we can funnel one way or the other, to make either one of those happen. Should we need to funnel here to CTE, to the shop, or to
Well,
pivot.
with the pivot, are we planned, and I know that we have the stuff with the PLM, we're gonna have to have water sooner than we anticipate. Are we kind of on track for that? Or are we gonna get to the point that we need to plant something and yet we don't have that piece in and we have no water?
So here's part of the tricky process that we have on this. The Ag Advisory Committee runs herd on that. So I don't know how that's gonna lay out because normally they take run on that farm down there. However, at the same time, it's a district deal at the same time, so we need to be involved.
Well, really, as a district, we need to have water
Correct.
to them so they can do what they're gonna do.
Right.
And that was part of the deal, at getting this pivot in. There were several things that Christy wanted to do in her class, and she ran out of time. Admittedly so, ran out of time, which was no fault of her, or her classes, it's just the way that it fell. So we ended up as a district maintenance going in and finishing for her so that it would be done to a completion point for Mr. Nelson at that point. So now we're on to this new project. We need to get with Christy and figure out, does she have any plans for that span? I've got a plan, but I don't know that she has a plan. If she doesn't have a plan, we'll probably go with my plan with that span, as far as that goes, because I do have that from Mr. Nelson, and he's happy to come in and do that. So I do have that on the hook.
So could Mr. Nelson come within the next month or two to put that span in?
Can call him and ask him. If you're telling me to pull the trigger, I'll pull the trigger.
Because it sounds like if
Well,
we
it's
don't
gonna be
get it
another
done,
instance where we have something that's not really finished to the point that you can use it.
because what I'm hearing
And
is
I
it
want
sounds
it
like there's a
finished.
process to planting something on there to get it going. Planting season's coming up where we need to plant.
Soon.
If we don't have water there, then why would we plant it? And so then we have another year of just barren, natural grass instead of using it or making it for its attention. So what I'll do is I'll have a talk with Christy tomorrow.
That's what you need to do.
Okay.
I believe the current plan was to put in Triticale. And Chuck Messner started down there and then the weather hit.
We also got flood season coming up too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that other piece, and it's probably way too money right at this moment. But,
Yeah, but you're
It's
right,
on
we
my-
gotta be on this and
So-
gotta keep
yeah,
it.
it is
So my
on my
question
docket.
is because I know not only do we have our floods, but we have definitely a higher snowpack, not just in these, but it's almost double on this side of the mountains. So with that floodplain, the water that's going through it right now, is it coming off of these or is it coming off of these? Do you know?
Thomas Creek water.
Actually, out here in the
More
north.
Mhm.
there's a lot of-
Because they say there's a lot more, almost double more snow in these mountains than there is compared to the Warners. That's what I've been told.
Corners have a lot of snow.
They say that this end has more, is
We're-
that true?
The last water snowpack report, we're at 152% or something.
Wow, okay. So then, do we wanna have this built before the thaw or wait till after the thaw?
After.
So we gotta
Yeah.
wait
You
till.
can't, you couldn't drive out there anyway if you wanted
Okay,
to.
so we're gonna be doing this towards June.
It's gonna be June.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
still,
We could still plant and
you
get
can
going.
still plant in the fall. You know, you can, and bring that crop up with the pivot and get it running, so it has
So
a
we're
nice
not
stand
gonna try
on it.
and get us,
You'll get a nice stand on it, and then you'll have winter come, and then it'll
so
grow
we're
for
not
next
gonna
spring.
try and get a May, June triticale that we irrigate and cut in the fall.
Well, that's possible.
It is
but
possible.
you gotta really have your ducks in line, because it
It's
really needs to
possible.
be in the ground in May.
Mhm. But then you're gonna run into, can you get on it in May?
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay. How about we move to the audit report?
More grueling information. I'll make this as light as possible. Okay.
Dodgeball.
Yeah, or just dodgeball.
So 6:30, Chris?
Does it start at 6 or 6:30?
At 6, yeah, we can just start throwing 15
Okay.
minutes.
Oh, you guys might not wanna be there anyway.
I can't envision
Might be a
this.
target.
I am on a team.
Nice. All right, well, we did complete our audit, thankfully. And I provided you guys with some really good reading material. Feel free to take it and read it if you feel so compelled. However, you don't have to, I won't hold it against you. Our audit went really well, actually. Oster came in and did a great job. We did have a qualified opinion on that GASB, number 75, which is the same one we had last year, and the prior year to that, many years prior to. In talking to them this past year in regards to GASB number 75, it has changed. Language has changed within that GASB, and so we are probably in a position where we need to have that done, more so now than any other time. So they gave me a firm that will give us an actuary on that. I believe that she quoted me 4,000, something like that, to have that actuary done. That would get us out of that qualified opinion. So that was the only other, red flag that we always have, I guess, if you will. We did have a couple of things noted. Our budget, we had one over expenditure violation, which occurred in actually Fund 240. And what had happened, which is our cafeteria fund, which is our cafeteria fund. And what had happened is we did not budget for our commodities, which we hadn't done in the past, but they caught it this year. So which is it roughly around 20,000 by the time we get done with our commodities allocation. And so they got us for that, rightfully so. We'll amend this year's to put that in there, so we don't have that new that violation again. And the rest of it was, of the 34,000 was also from salaries, which that's kind of a typical situation anyway. And honestly, all these things have been addressed. So Fremont Hay, their bank statements at the ASB level were not approved for months of September through June. And the high school bank statements were not also approved for July of 2017, which is probably just a simple oversight for the Lakeview High School. We were kind of in transition at that point in time too with a leader, Mr. Stratton coming in, Cahill leaving, those kinds of things. So they noted it, knowing that that was all going on at the same time. As far as Fremont and Hay, they've rectified that situation, so we're fine. Public contracting, we got nailed on that again. This went for the pump at the ag farm. So actually the ag farm pump was quoted, I believe, in about 2016, and we ran with that quote instead of getting three bids on that. That was actually not done through the district office. That was one of those things that came, the Ag Advisory Committee had a hand in helping Christie with that situation, and they just were not aware of that public contracting since then, which this has been way back when, basically, all of the public contracting has come through this office. So we do it through here, so we get the bids and or documentation that says we at least tried to get the bids that we need to satisfy that public contracting law for us. So we've rectified that as well. They just made note of it because they did catch that on the well, on the pump, excuse me. We had some issues with some time cards and some leave slips. 8%, we had missing 8% on approvals. We had a little bit of trouble with our new iVisions, really clearly seeing that approval process, which was early on with iVisions, and so we had later in the year rectified that also, got that figured out to where you could clearly see it within our system. Going electronic, you didn't always see that Mr. Cahill maybe approved some of my leave or whatever, or a time card type situation. So that has also been rectified as well. We'll always probably have a small percentage of approval that slips by. That's the nature of the beast, and that's basically time cards, because we're still manually punching time clock. So some of those get by us. But Patty is very good about making sure she stays on top of that. If she sees them on her desk, then she gets it back, to the appropriate supervisor to get it back to them. We had one administrator that did not have a contract, and that administrator was only here for a partial year, so it's kind of a give and take on that one. Yes, we didn't have it on that administrator. However, they were short-lived. The last thing that they nailed us on, or made note of, I should say, was a transportation report on an accurate number from grade 1 through 6. And this came after the fact. And we did have trouble last year having bus drivers really give us good, accurate, whose kids ride their buses. We've rectified that also this year. Every kid that should be on that bus, irregardless of whether they ride or not, has been put to a list. So we have rectified that to make that a little bit more tight. Other than that, those were our notes. And other than that, it went well for us. One of our better ones, actually. Now, with that, I do have some not so good news. Oster has pulled out of Lake County, so we are a conglomerate with the ESD, Paisley, North Lake, Adel, and Plush, and ourselves. We all kind of group together and have all of our audits are on kind of one. ESD usually pays for our audit along with all those other districts, and Lake County, the county, Oster was doing theirs as well. They have picked up more clients in Burns that need bookkeeping services. So it was more cost beneficial for them to stay at home than to travel. So they have given their letter of notice to us that they will not be with us any longer. So what we've done is all of our districts have kind of gotten together as business managers, and Sarah's putting out an RFP for a new auditor. But we're also working with Ann Crumrine a little bit to see if we can entice that same auditor for the town and for us, at the same time, make it worth their while.
You the county.
Yeah, or the county, I'm sorry, yes, the county. And so we're kind of coordinating those RFPs,
You know who that is?
who we're getting.
Who the county has?
The county had Oster as well,
Oh, they did.
yes. And so they've also declined to come back for them as well. And so, so that's why we kind of teamed up to see if we could get somebody to come in here and make it worth their while, and maybe make it cost effective for us. What that means for Lake County is, or for LCSD number 7, is that normally the ESD pays ours 100%. We are the biggest district that gets audited out of all of the districts. We will probably be out of pocket this year for our audit services. So we'll see what that number pulls out.
And that's because ESD,
Only has so much money that they can put out there. Oster had done ours relatively cheap, comparative to what they could have been charging, for a district
So
this
what
size.
did they charge us?
I think ours was around, ours alone, I don't know about the other districts, but I think ours around maybe 11 to 13,000, somewhere right in there.
I could see it easily being twice that.
Exactly, and that's what's gonna happen with another audit firm coming in, is it could very easily be doubled.
Would
And-
ESD pay half?
Right, so what would happen is we would actually go in and look at whoever we, award that to. We, being districts, will sit down and look at all the audit firms, make a decision in that aspect. But we'll look at those prices and see where we are, and it might be a 60-40, it might be a 50-50, it might be whatever. But I'm bracing for, we will be paying some of ours, for sure. This isn't a bad thing.
any other good ones?
Well, no. The sun is shining, does that make it any better?
Any questions? Board? Okay. All right, thank you. 9, old business.
Got none, Mr. Chair.
10, new business.
We have none of that.
Consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Announcements.
No announcements.
Okay. Next board meeting agenda items.
Well, once again, we'll come back and revisit the 2019-20 calendar. Mrs. Chavez will finally do the Healthy Teen Survey report, and then Greens Elementary will probably have some sort of a, presentation to their kids as far as the project goes. So, and no doubt there'll be other things added, I'm sure.
Okay.
Mr. Cahill, the art class would like to do a presentation if there's
Okay.
time.
Okay. Get the art class here.
Adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye. Motion carries. Meeting's adjourned.
Thanks.